Dear Verastructor, when thinking about fourth dimensional objects, most demonstrations are very clinical, mathematical, scientific, and they hide this really important fact that clearly we are fourth dimensional beings. As usual, I'm very esoteric. In a previous video that we did called Interdimensionality, I did a wonderful demonstration. I'm not going to do it again. Maybe I'll patch it in right here. Let's say there was a one-dimensional world.
Sure.
What would three-dimensional objects look like moving on a one-dimensional plane? You can imagine there's just this line, right? This short little line.
Sure.
And through that line, we pass through some object, and you have no idea what's going on. But if you look at that little slit right there, that's what a one-dimensional being might see. As if a higher dimension is able to project, that's the correct term, is project onto a lower dimension. It looks just weird.
Oh, I'm sure.
It makes no sense. It appears to come out of nowhere.
Right.
Stay for a while and then go away. And sometimes it will grow depending on the object. We clearly are beings of flesh that are exploding out of a fourth dimension. A quick little story, because I think this is important to the video here and to better understand who I am. I've never understood why we need to do work in math. You know, you get 2 + 2 equals. For other people and for the math teacher, it feels important to put down the math, even with algebra. And I never understood that. I just solved for x. I put x equals this, and that was the end of it. And even in calculus, that's all I would ever do is I just give the answer, and they'd be like, anyway, at least with calculus they understand. It's like you can't just come up with that answer, the correct answer, on the spot. Someone gives you a problem and you just come up with the answer. You have to be doing something to get to that point. But the work never made sense to me. I never wanted to write, I never wanted to write it through. And so I'm doing the same thing to you right now. You clicked on a video that says, we are explosions of flesh walking around. And I'm just like, we're explosions of flesh walking around. And, and now you're looking for the work on that. And I don't have the work, or I don't want to go through the work, but otherwise it's very unentertaining YouTube video if I don't go through the work. So I'm going to try and do that right now. Bear with me here. Fourth dimensional objects, you can go look up videos on fourth dimensional objects. They're really fascinating. They're interesting things. They appear to grow and die. They have a life. When I've ever seen those videos, my mind always immediately jumps to, this looks like a baby growing in a womb, continuing to grow into adulthood, reaching a particular point and then decreasing. And you can see that pattern, whether you measure it in weight or height or however you want to measure it, it is a natural growth pattern. And the natural growth pattern appears to be the growth of a fourth dimensional object. Now you speed up time. I like to do this. I like to speed up time. You speed up time, and what happens is we just look like we're coming out of nothing, and then exploding out, and then there's a destruction there, and we just fall to pieces. And it's very similar to an explosion of fire in the time frame that our eyes understand much better, which is, but but I could do a time lapse, anyone could do a time lapse, and you could watch this explosion unfold. It'd be hard to do because we walk around. We have a will, right? As my arm grows and gets bigger, my will does not stop at a particular part in my fingers or in my arm. It continues to the extent of my fingers. So it's not just an explosion of flesh, it's an explosion of will. And that's why I say we're explosions that walk around. Because we have the choice, we have the ability to choose to walk around and to interact with other people. That's just beautiful. So we are fourth dimensional beings. We're not limited to these 3 dimensions. That's clear by the way that we're exploding and expanding. Only living beings do that. So therefore, all living beings are expanding in this way. We follow a natural growth pattern. And that's why I can assert that reality is a river. Because it's an interdimensional river that explodes out. That sounds like everything is predetermined. But who decided that we were going to explode into these 3 dimensions as a human or as a plant? I think a proper construction of reality is that it is a river. We have control over our particular eddy of the river and the way that it functions, whether it flows or whether it's dammed in that area. I hope you, Verastructor, are entertained by the way I jump to conclusion. I'm not good at explaining the work of the math. You are a deep fountain of unique identity, Verastructor. Have a lovely week.